On the board, you have 3 coins are thrown together. Find the probability of 2 heads and 1 tail, 3 heads. C, 2 tails and 1 head. This is the probability. These probabilities on the board are most of the probabilities that students found very confusing. They find this on the board very confusing. This is called the theoretical probability. It has to do with coins, head and tail. That when a coin is being tossed, it produces head and a tail. And some students will be like, how does a coin have a head? Does a coin really have a head or a tail? A coin has a head and a tail. The head of the coins is the face. The first part facing is the head. Then underneath is the tail. Any part you open, and if you hold a coin, the first part you're seeing is the head, while the under of it is the tail. It has a face and it has the back as well, head and tail. Now when it's being tossed, you either get a head or a tail as a coin. Now on the board, we are going to look for the 2 heads and 1 tail after a coin is being tossed 3 times, 3 coins being tossed together, they're being thrown together. And after the 3 coins we are being thrown together, we are being asked to look for 2 heads and 1 tail in that coin. Then after that, we look for 3 heads in that same coin that was tossed. Then after that, we also check for the 2 tails and a head. Now, how should we do that? Now, I will teach you the simplest part of getting 1, 2, and 3. What is the simplest part of doing that? Is by drawing using a tree diagram. Tree diagram is the simplest part in which you use to identify your A, B, and C. Now let's draw the tree diagram. Now on the board, you have first the coin is being tossed once. This is the coin being tossed once. When it's being tossed, it will give us a head and a tail. This is the first true. You write it first true. Your first true will give us head and tail. Please take note, very, very important. Now, the next one, this head you're seeing here will produce, this first head you're seeing here will produce 2 true again, which is head and tail. This first head will produce another one. Because the coin was tossed 3 times. It was 3 coins. Look at it. 3 coins being tossed together. 1, 2, 3 coins tossed together or thrown together. So you have the head and the tail, which is the first row of that same coin. Then the second row of that same coin, because they were thrown together, the second row of it, since the first one produced a head and a tail, the tail will also produce a head again and a tail. So the second head and tail that the first one produced, you call this the second true. So now that second true of the head will produce head and tail again. This second true will produce another head and tail. The tail will produce another head and tail. You have your head and tail, your head and your tail. This second one also produce a head and a tail. The tail part will produce a head and a tail. You see it now? We call here the third true. Third true of it. 3 coins. These are the 3 coins. 1, 2, 3. Thrown together. Because when you are holding a coin, when you hold 3 coins and throw them up together, it might give you head or tail. They are likely to land at the same time. Likely to land at the same time. And when they are landing at the same time, they are likely to land using the head and the tail. Using the head or the tail. One might land using the head, the other one the tail, the next one the head. So this is the first row, second row, and the third row of 3 coins, 3 times together. Now you see that you have your head, which produces head and tail. That same head produces its own head and tail. The tail produces head and tail. Now coming to the second tail. This tail produces head and tail. That head produces its own head and tail. Then the tail here produces another head and another what? Tail. So this is its outcome of the 3 coins thrown together. These are the outcome of it. Now from here, we are going to level it out. Now, how do we level it out? If you watch, we'll take, because the question said we should find the probability of 2 heads and 1 tail. Now, how can we do for the probability of 2 heads and 1 tail? It is very simple. After we've drawn, this is a tree diagram of the coin. We'll bring out all of these, the trees, we'll bring them out one by one, because all these are branches produced from the tree. So let's bring them out one by one. Now look up. First of all, you do this, you take, look at it. This is a coin. From the coin, you have your head, and head. The coin produced head, and head. So you have your head, and head. Now, coming to the second part, the coins produced head, and tail. Head, and tail, which will give us our head. We take the tail. Now, coming to the other side, this same side produces, look up, we have the head, tail, and head. Your head comes to the tail, you get your head. So it will be the head, your tail, and head. Now we'll come to the next one. The reason we are doing all those things, the reason we are going to list out all the branches, all these branches, we'll bring them out. The reason we are listing all these branches out, so we can be able to answer the questions, because without listing out these branches, it will be difficult to answer these questions. So the reason we are listing out these branches, we are bringing it out so we can be able to overcome A, B, and C. So we are done with head, tail, and head. Now this is the next one. So what are we taking? If you watch, look at it. Head, tail, tail. So it will be head, tail, tail. Head, tail, tail. So we are done with this first part of the tree. We are done with the first part of the tree. Now let's go to the second part of the tree produced from the coins. Remember, this is a tree diagram of a coin. Now we are done with this first part of the head from the coin. Now let's go to the tail. This tail now. Now if you watch the tail, look at the drawing. This is tail, head, head. If you watch here, it is tail, head, head, which is tail, head, head. Now we are done with this. Now coming to the next part. What is the next part? You have your tail, head, tail. Your tail, head, tail. Now we are done. And coming to the other part of it, you have your tail, head. Your tail, head. So now after this, the last one is the last one from the coin. Tail, which is equal to your tail. So having listed all the branches, we've brought out all the branches. Now that all the branches are out, from this now we can now be able to answer our question. The question A says what? We should find the probability of 2 heads and 1 tail. Now, after listing all the outcome, these are the outcome from the 3 coins that was strewn together. These are the outcomes. Now we need to calculate how many outcomes did he give to us. He gave us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Give us 8 outcomes of 3 coins thrown together. Total outcomes of 8. Now, with the total outcome of 8, you cannot be able to find the probability of 2 heads and 1 tail. So, probability of 2 heads and 1 tail is. Now let's come to the outcome. How many times did 2 head and 1 tail appear? That is the meaning of the probability of 2 head and 1 tail. From this outcome now, how many times did 2 heads and 1 tail appear? Now let's check. Here you have 3 heads, is out of it. Here you have 2 heads and 1 tail. So we've gotten 1. You have 2 heads and 1 tail. We've gotten 2. Now we have 2 heads again and 1 tail. 3. Here we have 1 head, 1 head. So the probability of 2 heads and 1 tail appears 3 times, because 2 heads, 1 tail, 2 heads, 1 tail, 2 heads, 1 tail, 3 times. So the probability of 2 heads and 1 tail is 3. That means 2 heads and 1 tail appeared 3 times from our outcome. So the probability of 2 heads and 1 tail is 3 over the total outcome, which is 8. That's for A. We are done with the A. Now the B part. Find the probability of 3 heads. It means that how many times the 3 heads appear. Now let's check from our outcome. Let's know how many times 3 head appears. 3 head appears, 1, 2, 3 appear. 1. The next one, 2 heads and 1 tail, 2 heads and 1 tail, 1 head and 2 tails, 1 tail and 2 heads. So the only time 3 heads appears is 1, which is the first one. 1, 2, 3. You've seen it now? So the 3 head appears 1. So the probability, he said, probability of 3 heads is equal to, you have, is 1. It appears once. 1 over the total outcome, 8. So the probability of 3 heads appeared once. If you check, all are having 2 heads, tail, 2 heads, tail, head, tail, tail. So it's only this one. The 3 heads appears only once. We are done with the B. Now going to the C. Find the probability of 2 tails and 1 head. Probability of 2 tails and 1 head. It means how many times from our outcome did 2 tails and 1 head appear from the outcome? From this outcome, how many times did 2 tails and 1 head appear? Let's check. 2 tails. This is 3 head out of it. This is 2 head out of it, because we are looking for 2 tails and 1 head. This is out. This is, we've gotten 1. 2 tails and 1 head. This is 1. The next one again is 2 tails and 1 head is 2. The next is 2 tails and 1 head, 3. So 2 tails and 1 head appeared 3 times, which is 1, 2, and 3. So our C will be probability of 2 tails and 1 head is equal to 3 over 8. That is the answer. You see, it is very simple and easy. If you can be able to present your table this way, your tree diagram, if you can be able to present your tree diagram from the coin, you'll be able to answer all this. Just follow it step by step. Take it step by step. You present all of these, use it to answer the questions. Thank you.